killed, number rising, and no justice. We take a closer look at how Kenyan women are fighting against femicide. You borrow, you pay. How Kenya's debt is affecting the nation at large. Can Kenya protect digital dignity and counter AI crime? And finally, biodiversity under threat, the impact of deforestation on aquatic life. Hello, we are live from Global Scope. I am Marion Dichu and I'd like to welcome our viewers from Kenya and around the world. We are with you for the next 25 minutes and thank you for joining us. This is the Feed Lens. On our top story today, we turn our attention to the escalating femicide crisis in Kenya. From urban areas to rural communities, the targeted killing of women has continued to rise, sparking national outrage. Beyond policing, human rights groups warn of systemic failures that allow these crimes to thrive. From patriarchal culture to weak enforcement of existing laws, we take a closer look at what can be done to protect our women. Our reporter, Sidi Omari, has more. You can join in on the conversation across our platforms using #TheFeedLens.
Kenya has recorded a disturbing rise in femicide cases over the past 5 years. Data from the human rights group Usikimi 2024 to 2025 shows that at least 502 women were killed between January 2022 and November 2024, recording a 67% increase from 2022. Police records further indicate that most cases occur in private spaces, often involving intimate partners, yet fewer than 10% reach conviction. Despite public outcry, activists argue that the justice system remains slow and under-resourced, with femicide cases taking an average of 4 to 6 years to complete trial. Organizations such as Usikimi and the Femicide Count Kenya project have petitioned Parliament to recognize femicide as a specific crime, warning that relying on the crime and violence laws fails to address this heinous gender crime and systemic impunity. As many continue to demand accountability, the big puzzle is what measures can bring justice to the victims.
I see so many young women coming up, initiatives being created just for the sake of asylums. Femicide entails so many things: gender-based violence, molestation, it has so many things inside it. And here in Kenya, we really don't have the full information what femicide entails. We don't have the nitty-gritty of it, and that's why when we talk, we march on the street. Not so many people understand what femicide is, and that's why femicide is on the rise here.
Prevailing aspect within our country, and it is something that is becoming an increasing factor within the country. So it's something that we really need to look into it, because even in this room, the way you're saying 1 out of 3, so it might have been someone has gone through it, is going through it, or will go through it. So it's something that is prevailing and needs to be looked into.
We are now joined by Sidi Omari, who has been following the story and will help us break this down. What more can you tell us, Sidi?
Many activists and women say Kenya's femicide crisis is critical, as 170 women were killed in 2024 with the Usikimi petition demanding femicide be criminalized. The petition is backed by civil society, NGOs, survivors and women, and calls for stronger legal frameworks, accountability, and national strategies to prevent further loss of women's lives.
There is also concern about the slow justice system and inadequate enforcement, with many survivors feeling unsafe. What are the experts saying?
Well, Marian, they are warning that without strong legal reforms, femicide cases will continue to rise. Solutions include criminalization, improved prosecution, and survivor support programs. Civil society believes urgent action is needed, taking lessons from regional examples like South Africa, which has recently recognized femicide as a separate crime prompting rapid policy changes on how to deal with femicide.
As the country grapples with the rise in femicide cases, many observers say that media coverage and public discourse sometimes enables impunity. How does inconsistent and sensational reporting affect accountability and the way society responds to these crimes?
Well, the media plays a critical role in shaping public awareness and pressure for justice. When coverage is inconsistent or sensational, it distorts reality and often shifts focus away from systemic failures. Some cases receive intense attention, while others vanish from public view, which creates uneven accountability. This pattern allows perpetrators to operate in a climate where violence against women is normalized or treated as isolated incidents. However, accurate, continuous, and responsible reporting can drive reform, support families, and hold institutions answerable. A consistent media approach is essential to changing how society understands femicide and demanding real protection for women.
Thank you, Sidi, for the in-depth report. As Kenya struggles with cases of femicide and a deepening social fear and a justice system under scrutiny, we must confront the culture failures and silence that allow women to die without protection and recognize what each of us can do to break the cycle. We are now joined by Paul Masharia, an advocate who will help us understand the systemic, legal, and cultural factors driving the femicide crisis and what can be done to address them.
My name is Paul Masharia, an advocate of High Court of Kenya, and also the managing partner of Masharia Gaido and Burigo Advocates.
What do you see as the main systemic factors behind the surge in femicide cases, given that over 500 women have been killed in just 3 years?
So the issue of femicide, I see it as a part and parcel of the larger picture of crime. Only that then this crime is targeted towards women. There are a number of factors and the reasons why people commit crimes. One, there are crimes of passion, that is one category, and then there are other crimes that are done because of maybe as a result of robbery. Three, there are other crimes committed because of revenge. Four, there are other crimes committed because of personal vendetta, personal differences. And five, there are other crimes largely committed because as a result of carrying out maybe theft, female or individuals who are of weaker or lesser capacity to defend themselves, they find themselves on the receiving end. So by and large, the reason why I think there has been a surge in femicide and the killing of female, it is part of those reasons. And also, Kenya is largely patriarchal, where you see people perceive, and I emphasize the word perceive, female as weaker targets. Weaker targets, why? Because one, they may not have the masculine capability to fight back. Two, they may not have capacity to call for help easily. And three, they may not have capacity in terms of the financial capacity to be at the same footing with the male gender. As thus you find female, they are seen as weaker targets. And fourthly, individuals who ultimately lead to the killing of female, you have heard more often than not that besides the killing, they had been raped. So the killing comes as a result of a concealment of one, either the identity, the motive, or the action that was done.
Why do you think fewer than 10% of these cases reach conviction, and what are the most critical gaps within the justice system?
The system that we have is largely adversarial. Unlike American system, which is inquisitorial, Maybe just to briefly explain that the judicial system we have does not inquire into the truth. It just balances what has been brought before court. So just like any other case, when a woman has been killed, the police are supposed to do the investigation. After investigation, the DPP is empowered by law to approve the charge based on the evidence and the breach that has been committed. After that has been done, then the perpetrators, aiders and abettors will be taken to court for prosecution. Then depending on the number of witnesses the prosecution wishes to call and the number of accused persons that may have been arrested, then the case may take its own good or sweet time, which may be dependent on a number of factors. One, the station where the case is reported may be a busy station. So you see, by the time all the pre-trial directions are taken, it might have taken time. Two, the number of individuals that have been charged may be many, and the number of witnesses may also be many. That therefore means more time will be consumed in interrogating the evidence given by these individuals. Three, you find that at times it is not very easy for the prosecution or the investigators to conclude these offenses that have been committed. For instance, if a woman is found at night killed, you haven't seen the perpetrator, you haven't seen any witness, you haven't seen anyone around to give you information. So therefore that means the only other route you can follow is the forensic route. You do the DNA, you see whether there would be any lead, any motive. You have to check the phones, you see who did she communicate to, what were they talking about. You see, then you are left in the dark to try to see who might be the persons of interest. At times you find even the individuals who may have talked to her last, they have no motive to have her killed. Even the individual she may have interacted, or the motive is very remote considered or considering the death that happened. So femicide, it has its own difficulties to follow through. Unlike where it is clear that someone has seen me assault, or you have seen someone beat someone, or you have seen someone shoot someone. I mean, that is easy because you have the perpetrator captured on video, you have the victim captured, so it is easy to follow through. But when these things are done in the darkness, where there are no CCTV, there are no witnesses, they are done at night, I mean, it becomes very difficult, one, to identify the perpetrator, two, to prosecute them. And the standard required for a criminal case conviction, it's 99%. You have to have at least 99% evidence, or rather convincing capacity for you to be able to convict someone for a criminal offense. So coupled with the difficulties we have in the judicial system, where sometimes the case take long before they take off, the supply of the material required take long, the witnesses themselves take long, at times they are not even available, the witnesses you get, they are not available to come to court, the prosecution may not have enough money to avail those witnesses to court. So even when somebody has been arrested, there is no capacity, there are no means to avail the witnesses to court. Those are some of the difficulties.
What impact could a specific femicide law have, especially with petitions such as the one led by Usikimye to recognize femicide as a crime?
One, that would be an excellent proposition, but in my own view, I don't think the absence of law is the cause of femicide. We have laws that govern misdemeanors and felonies. Murder, I mean, you see, murder is murder. When you kill someone with intent to kill, it's murder. There is law for that. We have the penal code. If you commit a sexual offense, it's there in our law. So, as much as that would be a good proposition, we are not devoid of laws dealing with felonies and misdemeanors. So unless such a law would address the gaps, the niche, or the areas that are not addressed in the whole justice system, unless such a law would, for instance, because killing someone is a capital offense where you qualify to be imprisoned for life. Unless then such a law would come up with policy framework, one, to ensure that there are more resources to the investigating agencies. Two, there are more resources to the courts dealing with such offenses, so that then we can even have a proposition that there be specific courts to deal with that. But then that will be also a stretch, because the courts that deal with other matters, they are still burdened by the number of cases. Three, then there be another cover framework, so that if such things happen, how can we fast track investigation? How can we fast track prosecution?
As we wind up, what measures can strengthen collaboration between law enforcement, community groups, and the courts to curb femicide?
As a society, make sure that we gather, or we have a safer space for ensuring that more witnesses come over. You have ease way of doing investigation in terms of trailing individuals or putting more security measures, because, for instance, assuming women are abducted at night as they are going home because they are coming from work, then what is the framework you put so that even those that work at night, they are not at risk? You see, these are is not an easy issue that can be addressed by a single statute. This is a societal issue, because if men are taught, or if there is a realization that you don't have to kill to earn, you don't have to rape someone to have sexual satisfaction. You see, it's more than a law. It's a culture that unless we have, or we come up with proper approach and systems to deal with it, then we will continue talking about, because I don't think the problem is the laws. The law is good because law guides social change, but then the law is not the utmost focus. The focus would be how can the whole system, the whole society be put to know about these things, about the identity of female as individuals, because there are some perpetrators who think a woman should not walk at night. I mean, how is that a crime? You understand? And unless we deal with those characters, even when we have laws, in the wee hours of the night, they will still do the crazy things of killing women.
Thank you, Paul. As femicide continues to claim the lives of women across the country, one thing is clear. For lasting change, we require legal reforms, stronger institutions, and a society that refuses to normalize violence against women. On to our next story. Kenya's public debt has reached a critical point. As of June 2024, the country's total public debt stood at Kenya shillings 10.5 trillion, according to the National Treasury. This represents over 70% of the country's GDP, a level economists warn is not sustainable. From high interest repayments to mismanaged funds in mega projects, the question remains, is the country borrowing for development or digging a deeper hole for future generations? Let's take a closer look at how the issue is impacting the Kenyan citizen. Our reporter, Trevor Owen, has more.
Kenya's debt portfolio has grown sharply over the last decade, driven by infrastructure projects and budget deficits. Data from the IMF shows that external debt service payments now consume 55% of domestic revenue, leaving little room for social services as the government pushes new tax policies to increase revenue. Many Kenyans say that they are struggling under the weight of inflation and the rising costs of living, and many feel that they are surviving rather than living.
Well, debts are supposed to be used to run the country in development, but the debts that we have right now are being used to settle other debts and to pay the salaries of civil servants instead of developing the country.
As the fiscal deficit widens, many worry, can Kenya strike a balance between development and debt sustainability, or are we heading towards an economic cliff? According to the National Treasury, current reforms aim to reduce the deficit to below 4.7% of GDP by 2026, but the road ahead remains uncertain.
Over the past few years, Kenya's public debt has reached an all-time high level, straining development plans, infrastructure, and citizens' alike. The pressing question now is, can the government balance growth and fiscal discipline, or is the nation drifting towards an economic recovery? Trevor Owen, reporting for the Fed.
We are now joined by Prince Seni to help us understand the state of Kenya's economy. What measures can be taken to reduce Kenya's dependence on external borrowing as the debt to GDP ratio now stands at 70%?
To answer your question, what measures that can the country take to reduce the reliance on debt? Well, easy, cut spending. The government likes to say things like increasing taxes is how we're going to deal with the debt. But as we saw last year in 2024, excessive taxation. Kenyans are okay with taxation, by the way. They just have a problem with excessive taxation. Not only that, also where the tax is going. Because you're seeing waste, expenditure. For example, the controller of the budget, Margaret, recently came out saying, with a report, saying that hospitality items, this country spends 17 million Kenyan shillings in a year, on a day, by the way, on hospitality items. 3 billion in a year, which is insane. Things like tea and mandazi were spent on. Surely we can cut on that. That's number one. Number two, the ESCC, Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, has definitely said that we are losing billions on the healthcare sector. The average national bribe has doubled between 2022 from 6,000 to 2023, almost doubling, to 11,000. That one can be taken care of. We've seen governors and ordinary Kenyans, private individuals, being arrested for their corruption, on corruption charges. That should continue. We should find the money that is being used for selfish needs by private individuals and direct it to government projects that will benefit the average Kenyan, the everyday Kenyan.
And the government balance development projects and fiscal sustainability without overburdening citizens through taxation.
We look south to Tanzania, other countries. How have they done it? Apparently Tanzania was offered a Chinese loan of building a port or something like that, but the previous President Magufuli refused, turned it down, saying that we will grow through our own means. And I support that. I would rather grow as slowly as Tanzania has grown, instead of as rapidly as Kenya has grown so far, and avoid the debt crisis that Kenya is in. Because that debt crisis will take all our growth and flush it down the toilet, as seen as some countries in the world who have defaulted on their debt It resulted in recession and depressions. So that's what I feel like that the country should do. Cut spending, deal with corruption, and so on and so forth.
And as we wind up, what lessons can Kenya learn from other African nations like Botswana that have maintained low debt levels through prudent management?
Botswana, right? Burkina Faso recently had a president that implemented free education, right? How did he do that? Did he borrow? No. Matter of fact, even cut ties with foreign nationals that were taking advantage of the country's resources. He used the public funds that were wasted elsewhere and implemented it into to benefit the average citizen in the country. Same thing can be done in Kenya. Matter of fact, we have free education implemented by the third president, Kibaki. We have that because money was used for the right things, and we can do it again.
Thank you, Prince, for your insight. As the debt story unfolds, one thing remains clear. This is an issue that requires joint efforts, accountability, and transparency to guide Kenya's economic future. Still ahead, the digital threats you don't see coming. How AI is enabling deepfakes and revenge pornography is a new form of online abuse. Stay with us. Welcome back. You can join in the conversation using the hashtag #TheFeedLens. We now shift our focus to a new digital frontier, artificial intelligence, technology, and misinformation in relation to revenge pornography. As AI tools become more accessible, the manipulation of images and videos is rising, exposing victims, mostly women and young people, to online shame, extortion, and harassment. From AI-generated deepfakes to non-consensual image sharing, the dangers are real and growing. The question remains, is Kenya's legal framework strong enough to protect digital dignity? Elsie Jenga with more.
Revenge pornography, the non-consensual sharing of private images, has taken a dark turn with the rise of AI. According to Amnesty International, 1 in 5 Kenyan women has experienced some form of online sexual harassment, and AI is making it easier to fabricate such content. Technology that can create realistic deepfakes is now being used to tarnish reputations and blackmail victims, mostly young women and public figures.
In this case, AI can be able to develop deepfakes, so a deepfake or an image of an individual that looks real, or even a voice, a video, so that it's more or less like a true representation of the original version of the person who did this. So with the development of AI, these kind of narratives are easily spread because they tend to look believable.
Experts warn that while the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act prohibits the publication of intimate images without consent, the law remains hard to enforce. According to the Communications Authority of Kenya, reports of online sexual extortion have increased by 43% over the past year, yet few cases reach conviction. Lack of digital forensic expertise and public awareness continue to impede justice.
Seen AI transform the world because AI can give you some images that are not yours. You can create a fake image and pretend to be someone you're not. You can also pretend to be somewhere else where they are not in the same vicinity. So it can be used to make a fiction of a life. So that is what I can say about AI.
As artificial intelligence continues to advance, the line between reality and fabrication is blurring. Revenge pornography is no longer just about violation of privacy, it's a human rights issue that calls for stronger policy enforcement and digital ethics education. Elsie Njenga, reporting for the FeedLens.
We are now joined by Abraham Marita to help us understand the legal, technological, and social implication of AI-generated revenge pornography in Kenya.
My name is Abraham Marita. I work with Internews as a project director.
What makes AI-generated content so difficult to regulate, and how can current laws be updated to address deepfake revenge pornography cases?
I think it's mostly because we are seeing different kind of harms that are coming from AI-generated content that probably the laws that we had before could not envisage, because it takes a long time to develop a law. In our country, it takes a long time to review the law. However, we have been progressive, for example, with the Computer Abuse and Cybercrimes Act. I think it's the most active law we have seen being amended every now and then. However, the problem with that is that it's being amended to more or less increase punishment to individuals, more or less suppressing freedom of expression and access to information, rather than taking care of the different issues that are being portrayed by dangerous use of AI. So that is mostly the challenge. So sometimes it's hard to predict what AI can be used for, but the issue is that we need to be able to have proactive laws that can then be able to challenge such issues. And in that case, we need to ensure that basically that kind of development encompasses everyone in the community who can be able to contribute to that, including civil society with government. It cannot be, we cannot do like digital legislation only by government, being done by government only, or by legislators only. It needs involvement of other communities to ensure that we have proper legislations that can basically be able to address that.
Why do AI-generated deepfakes and non-consensual image manipulation remain underreported? And what makes investigation and accountability so difficult in the digital space?
I think there's an issue of what we call stigma. A lot of AI-generated content that is basically targeted at individuals has been observed to mostly be targeted at women, for example, in Kenya. So technology facilitated gender-based violence is bigger to women than to men. And you find that because different individuals feel the stigma. Imagine, for example, you've had your non-consensual private images posted online. It's hard for you to go out there and fight back publicly around that issue. So some people will tend to face stigma and keep quiet and let the story die by itself. And others, it's an issue around how do we have proper ways of reporting such issues. One of the ways is reporting through the platforms, and you'll find sometimes that these platforms are not active enough to be able to take down such images, so they continue spreading or even move to other platforms. And the other one is that the local laws, for example, are not, either they are there, but people are not really aware on how they are supposed to basically do this kind of reporting. Individuals who mentioned, for example, I've seen in studies that other organizations have done, that when they go to report, for example, in a police station, they will be asked, why were you taking nude photos, for example? You know, that is a form of stigma. So it does not create an environment, a safe environment for individuals to be able to report around these issues. So basically the platforms themselves need to be accommodative to ensure that they do not allow such issues to occur, in as much as we want to, of course, promote freedom of expression online, but it should not be used to limit other people's basically rights on those platforms.
Lastly, in your view, how can technology be used to protect victims?
It's not a one solution. So yes, number one, platforms have to be responsible about managing safety in their space, to ensure that every user has a safe environment to basically do what they're doing on that platform. Number two, allowing for example, journalists to be able to do investigations either by accessing the information and tracking and fact checking and verifying, and even number three, allowing local authorities to take action, for example, for information that has been reported. We know that, for example, this is being done in in our country, in Kenya. However, mostly you will see the motivation, it's around big people, politicians and the rest. And they will go, authorities will go ahead to request for information from these platforms and basically do investigations. But when it comes to individuals who are facing a particular targeted harm, they are slow towards doing that. So local authorities need to also have the ability to be able to basically do the investigations for the common of every person in society. And lastly, the most important thing, I always believe that there will always be bad people in society, and they'll continue spreading such harmful content. So if you don't educate the public on digital media and information literacy, then we're just leaving everyone out there to face this kind of harms. But if people have the knowledge and skills to critically assess information online, to be able to tell, for example, that when this person is spreading this information has some kind of bias and they're basically spreading it to cause harm, then they can avoid such information and basically consume the correct information. And if they face such information that is misinformation or disinformation, they will not spread it, and this will reduce the kind of harms that we see online. So having digitally media literate society basically can prevent even the kind of things that we're looking at from the platforms.
Thank you for your insights, Abraham. As AI continues to evolve, it's clear that protecting digital dignity requires stronger legal action, public education, and ethical tech innovation. And finally, we turn our focus to Kenya's environmental landscape, where biodiversity loss and deforestation are posing a serious threat to aquatic life. As forests disappear, rivers leach up, water sources dry, and communities that depend on fishing and clean water struggle to survive. Can we reverse the damage done before it's too late? Our reporter David Kibet has more.
According to the United Nations Environment Programme UNEP 2023, Kenya loses approximately 12,000 hectares of forest cover each year. The impact has been left across key water catchment areas such as the Mau Forest and Aberdare Range, where river flows have significantly reduced. The Kenya Forest Service 2024 reports that river siltation and pollution have contributed to a 35% decline in freshwater fish populations in lakes such as Naivasha. As trees disappear, so does the habitat that sustains aquatic life and local livelihoods.
The evidence that the levels of rivers and lakes will register tremendous reduction in amount of water. The levels will go down, then it means that we have no sufficient water. That is a direct impact of deforestation. And in that sense, it affects directly the aquatic life, because being a habitat for aquatic animals and that category of biodiversity, it is their ecosystem. That's where their home is, and their survival is in aquatic or water for that matter. So with the deforestation, for whatever reason, maybe for commercial exploitation or what we call destruction by forest fires or any other source that may impact negatively to the forest, then it means that you will have the first evidence of impact, negative impact to aquatic life.
We are now joined by Dr. Jen Oteki, who will help us understand the impact of deforestation and what can be done to protect aquatic ecosystems. How can local communities and government-led initiatives help restore forest coverage and reduce siltation in our rivers?
The local communities protected this very well. If you look at the indigenous societies, this was done very well. But currently, the problem we are having is that one of encroachment. And encroachment because of our needs and wants. That is the major problem. So if our needs and wants are taken care of, then there should be no encroachment. The communities do not even need to be taught. If you look at the Maasais and other ethnic groups in the ASAL areas. They protected their resources very well. They knew when to move to a wet area, when to move away from that wet area. Indigenous knowledge is very, very important. So for the communities, we need just to give them the provision of the needs, the wants, and those communities will be able to continue living with the wild animals, with the plants, just the way they did before.
As we wind up, are current laws effective in curbing illegal logging and land degradation, or do we need stronger policies and enforcement?
Much as we have the rules and regulations to manage this, you find that I think I would say either we are greedy, I would call it greed, because the laws are there. NEMA is there to look at all the environmental impact assessment things. And if you go to NEMA right now, you'll find a lot of reports, environmental impact assessment reports. But when you go to the ground, you find the opposite. Why do we find the opposite? Implementation is the big problem. And I think I would put all the blame on corruption, because we have the rules, the regulations, very well spelled out, but they are not followed to the letter.
Thank you for your insights, Dr. Jane. As Kenya strives to achieve its 30% forest cover targets by 2032, it's clear that reforestation and sustainable land use are not just goals, they are crucial for our future. The question is, can we strike a balance between development and environmental preservation before our aquatic life disappears gradually?
Hey, I've just finally got some time to do my own thing. I'll send you a link. I'm doing some prints, trying to make accessories from them. Oh, I'm really, really happy you like them. Hey, it's Kay Davis. What's happened?
To be honest, it's just not what we're looking for.
Kay. Hey, good to see you.
Rising cases of femicide to economic instability, digital dignity, and the urgent call for environmental conservation, one thing is clear: Kenya's future depends on the actions we take today. That's it for today's Global Scope edition, and I'd like to leave you with a quote by Wangari Maathai. It's the little things citizens do that will make the difference. My little thing is planting trees. Thank you for watching, and remember to stay informed and engaged. Until next time, I'm Marion Dichu.